I wanted to welcome everybody and thank you for coming to our luncheon. We're super excited to talk to you about the AWS Skills Guild. I don't know if you caught my leadership talk, but if you did, we covered a lot of what this program's about. But the Skills Guild program is really designed to do broad scale enablement in an organization, both from a business and a technical perspective. We're going to have a conversation with two of our customers about that today. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
Okay.
Oh, first of all, my name is Maureen Lonergan, and I lead the training and certification organization for AWS. I've been with the organization for 10 years. This is my 10th reInvent. Super exciting to be in person again. And with that, Dawn.
Hi, I'm Dawn D'Amico. I work at Fannie Mae. I'm Vice President of Digital Workplace, which is essentially end user services. And I also sponsor the Guild program at Fannie Mae.
Nice. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Shubha Moy. Full name is Shubha Moy Chakraborty. I'm better known as Shubha. Keeps things simple. I've been with a company called Verisk. We do data analytics for multiple, we have insurance, financials, as well as in energy. Been with the company since 2000. Do the math, many years. Started as an engineer, currently work as an architect. Training has been very close to us across the organization. So glad to be part of this. We embraced it a couple of months back, and we look forward to do big things in the next 12 months. So, thank you.
So Dawn, I'll start with you. What about the Guild program interested you, and how did you make a business case within your organization to support this large-scale enablement framework?
Yeah. I would say that training at Fannie Mae and the culture was typically one where we would offer training and we wouldn't really track the certification rates, and it really wasn't an expectation. And as we decided we were going to be a cloud first company, we looked around and quickly realized we needed to build the talent within Fannie Mae to be able to achieve the very aggressive goals that we wanted to move to the cloud. And the Guild program just seemed like it had the components of a program that had some variety, but it was a path to certification, and that's what we really liked about it. So, we decided that we were going to take the framework and make a few little changes that were a better fit for our culture. As I mentioned, the certification rate was really important to us, so we decided to have cohorts of paths to certification where we would bring in groups for 6 to 8 weeks. And they would have a facilitator that would take them through the path to certification. And we've been quite successful. And we have about a 40% certification rate right now.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with the skills framework, it's a combination of we go into the organization and do a learning needs analysis, and then we plan training across the organization, identify where your skill gaps are, and then we bring in, it depends on the customer, obviously, but we bring in professional services or solution architectures, and we do a whole enablement framework, and then help you to build communities within your organization. So Shobhu, why don't you tell me a little bit about your journey with the Skills Guild?
So I think we started the data center exit program a couple of years back. When we started migrating applications to cloud, we got a quick win, couple of quick lift and shift. We did a little bit of tinkering, refactoring, and we did it. At the end of the maybe first quarter, we realized that everything was going fast, but not exactly optimized. So I think we started to look at what's missing. And I think what was missing is people didn't know if there was a better way of doing rather than whatever they picked up in a training course outside. So we started to talk to our TAMs, our account managers, and we realized that there is a little bit of structure required. And we are a global company. We have multiple data centers, multiple offices, different time zones, and then COVID hit, and it made it even more challenging. So what we realized is that we needed to have an organized, structured training approach where we would give individuals a learning path, and it wouldn't be go for the training, come back, and then go back to your same task that you were doing. So there had to be a continuation of the training, so it's more relevant to what they have to do. So what we started doing is we started talking to people saying, all right, what's your next 6 months projects? Let's figure out what you need, and then fine tune the training based on the projects they had in hand. Because otherwise, you can go to training, give an exam, come back, and then you're like, all right, I did it, but what do I do now? So there's that hesitation or to go for training because they felt, well, we are being told to go for training, but it doesn't work. When I come back, I still do the same task. So it was a lot of balancing act. But I think we needed something which was structured, global, multi-time zone. On our own, we couldn't do it. We had a cloud guru. We had 500 seats. Everybody was given incentive to give an exam, but still, when it comes to optimized workload, I don't think we were there where we were comfortable. So this program definitely helps us go that route.
And Shobha, we talked right before this about the need to train both the business and the technical. What's been your experience? It's something that we encourage within an organization to get
Right.
cloud fluency, but you had an interesting
Yeah,
perspective.
so when you talk about AWS and cloud, there's just not, first is a financial model, right? You're going from CapEx to OpEx. Some business units get it for the newer projects, but when you go to legacy, some of the financial teams, they needed to understand the new way of billing. And it wasn't simple, whether it was a developer who was being led by a by a project manager, nor was it simple for the security team. So we realized that even within IT, different teams needed different kind of training based on their workload. And then outside that, when there are people in marketing or field reps, they also needed to understand what exactly does cloud mean for their specific task. Otherwise, the developers can develop a piece of code, but if the marketing guy doesn't see the value proposition, he's not going to sell it. So it's not just training the IT guys and saying we are done. It's more than that. It's kind of making the culture shift from what we did to what we can do. And then explore certain areas like prototyping and all that, but it had to be across the organization. I think that's the only way we found people kind of got it, that this is something real. This is not going to just pass over and I'll be back to my old state. So that was the journey.
Yeah. And Don, we were talking earlier about early career talent and what that has, and I think probably a bit more eager, but you had said exposing your early career talent and how you plan for that. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Talent mobility is something I'm very passionate about. And it's something that we're trying to figure out how to do that at scale. So we have some young, eager talent that are getting certified. They're seeking the training, and they want to take that training, the education, and actually use it. And so what we're trying to find is areas where we can bring 6, 12 folks together and move them in to become a full stack developer, as an example, and to be able to then provide sort of like the training roles that they need, from the certification to actually becoming that full stack developer. And we're experimenting with doing that in several different areas.
That's awesome. Can you talk about, has there been a shift, Shobha, in the culture of learning in the way that you're embracing this program, or what's been the dynamic within the organization?
So being in the company for many years, there are a lot of engineers who have been working with me for over 10, 12 years. And some of them were stuck with their old role, which is a Windows admin will say, well, why do I need to learn? It's still an RDP, right? So how does it matter? And we were like, yeah, it is, but that's where the similarity ends. What you do after that is going to be different. So you have to learn that if you're a developer, you need to understand the technology, but also the security aspect, the financial aspect, the operational aspect. It's just not you write a code and somebody else puts the security block around it. So the training was more about learn your role, understand what you have to do, but also be aware of what other people need to do to make it a product. It's just not silos anymore. So I think most of the engineers in our group now, they have to understand storage. The storage guys need to understand the Windows EC2s. The guy who manages the security needs to understand what is an IAM policy. It's not a third-party product bolt in and it's end of it. So it's not one particular training. We promote immersion days. We promote workshops. We talk about what are your use cases. Let's get a training custom to that. I think it is important to understand that it's not one thing. You have to know a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So giving an incentive to get cloud certified, and it's not that we just tell people to do. We ourselves do the same. Yeah. My boss, CTO, he did his own exam. He certified himself. That tells them that it's not that we're telling you to do. We are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps out.
I think one of the things that I talk with customers about a lot, and we discussed it earlier today, is the cloud skills gap, it's been tremendous from a technology perspective. And the pandemic certainly hasn't helped that. And when I talk to customers, it's really about how do you think about the staff that you hired? You hired them for your culture, you hired them and they know your business. And it's important to invest in individuals because I think we're all out there competing for the same people, right? As fast as we're trying to build and train, it's definitely difficult. Where have you seen kind of the program help your more traditional IT, Dawn?
I think similar to what you were saying, we just recently added some of the specialty certifications, information security, network, and so as we move to more of that you build you own model, bringing in some of those other experiences are really going to help us there.
Yeah, and I think a large part of what we do with the skills, I think it's probably one of the core component of it is, first of all, obviously a vocal executive advocate, but the other part of that is really building kind of a community within the organization. And Shobu, how have you done that? Like what activities have you done to try and get cloud champions within the organization?
So two things. One is we had a lot of folks who have possibly not given an exam for a long time. So there was that hesitation that do I really have to go for a training course? So we said, fine, we will do workshops, which will be focused on what you want. So it'll be training, but not geared towards giving an exam. Second thing, I think what really helped us is we got executive sponsorship from day one. We had a cloud-first strategy. We were not making as much innovation as we thought we would. So when we went to the business units, we said, all right, you are the folks who were with us in the project to migrate from on-prem to cloud. So you are the data center exodus program managers. You know the problems we faced. Take that problem, take the training, go back to your team and explain to them why this is not just an option, but this is required to go to the next level of innovation. We can't be cloud native with the legacy code. That's just not going to happen. And right now, I guess there's always going to be this challenge of prioritization. We all agree training is good, but we never have time. That's like we all know we need to go to the gym, but there's never the right time. But it's just part of life. So figure it out, get into your workforce that we will give you, like you mentioned that you have a Thursday training day. Do something where people don't feel that this is on top of what they're doing. This is part of what they all have to do, and it's across the board. So this program definitely helped us to get that message through, and then we have cloud champions. They are our advocates. They are part of every business team across every time zone that we have, and they promote that this is what I'm doing, this is what everybody should do. It has helped.
And Dawn, you talked about, we have it within my organization, we have No Meetings Friday, and that's really designed to allow people to learn to be curious, experiment. And you have a very similar concept within your organization because we believe you have to leave time for learning. Yeah, exactly.
Learning. Yeah, so we introduced this concept called Take Time Thursday. And so that's essentially no meetings, Thursday afternoon, take the time to do what you need to do, catch up, do some training. So we arranged the program around making sure that milestones sort of came aligned with that time, so folks had the extra time to do the learning.
Yeah.
And Shobu, what have you seen since you've kind of embraced the Skills Guild program, and what are some of the business outcomes or metrics that you use to measure the success of it?
There are a lot of products that we came across where somebody senior went for a training or went and saw a video or attended an immersion day, came back and read some papers, some blogs, and say, hey, why don't we do this? And that, I can't even count, but I would say at least 10 to 15 different ideas came out of just the training process. It wasn't the objective of the training, but it kind of opened up the idea to other areas. Like there was a security guy, he had come to me saying, he couldn't get his head around the security aspect and the data center not being physical, because that's new for a lot of security folks. So getting them to understand what a security team do when it comes to serverless architecture was relevant. He didn't go for that to learn security, but he got an idea that, oh, this is how it's done. So then I don't need to go and buy my old scale or my kind of legacy tools and bolt it on top of it. So I think to answer the question, the point is that where we found the benefit is when people started to look at training as their own growth, personal growth, that's where it we got to give people time based on priority, but I think that's where they start to embrace it, saying, this is not something I have to do, I want to do. So it takes a while, but it does change.
Yeah. And Dawn?
Yeah, I would just add that creating that community of interest and having hackathons and game days, it really creates a lot of excitement around the possibilities around innovation. And
Yeah.
We had something that came out in the recent year. One of our hackathons is actually now in production, and it's working for our multifamily business. And it was a mobile app, and it was just part of one of those innovation events.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, AWS is, rolling out services all the time and working with organizations to really talk to them about kind of building this culture of continuous learning is so critical. And it's a hard conversation, I think, that people have to have with their executive leadership team. So how did you have that, Shobu? I mean, was it ingrained in your culture, or was it something that you...
No, so there was a event that we had Jeff Barr join, our CIO, Nick Tufan, and they had a conversation, and Jeff mentioned a topic that he believes in just-in-time learning.
Yeah.
And that kind of resonated with a lot of us, because it's no way that you know everything on any topic, thanks to Amazon continuously changing. So it keeps us in that learning mode, but it also helps where you may not know everything, but I have been asking people to go to sessions where you have chalk talks, or you look at Ask the Architect, you go and look at Bootstrap and Quick Starts. That gives you an idea of what the end result is going to look like. And a lot of people don't understand unless they see the end game, and then they say, oh, I get it. I can do it, I can customize it. But it's something as a finished product to get it. So I think for us, that definitely helps out.
Yeah. And you, Dawn, was it difficult?
No, actually, I was very fortunate. I got the sponsorship that I needed.
Yeah. I think we will open it up for some questions, if anybody has any. Yep.
We work with a gentleman named Paul Van Shake within your company for our training. We did a training and assessment and analysis.
Yeah.
I was wondering if this is your skills guild. Is that something broader than the assessment that we did?
Yeah, so the learning needs analysis is the core component of the program. So we take an assessment of what you are, but to be clear, the program is a very structured framework in which we take the data that we get from that, so the results, work with your leadership team, and then build out training. So whether you're working with us or professional services or the solution architect, we want to build, a timeline. Let's say it's 9 months, 12 months, and layer in training tied to projects or things that you're doing through your digital transformation. So it might start out something like this. We get a base set of your, cloud talent, upskilled on architecting, developing SysOps, right, core. Then we start to layer in security. Then we might bring a workshop in from an SA immersion day. I mean, you can talk about what that does, a very specific topic tied to a project that you're trying to do. And then if you have professional services or a partner in there helping you through that, we'll bring in some workshops that might be very culture-based or talking about transforming the community within your organization, and best practices. And so what we try and do is really look at what are the business outcomes that you want to achieve, what are your goals for the organization for the year, and then really layer in the right training. So it's a very structured approach. And the thing that we ask is that you commit to training hundreds of people, right? I think it's 500 person minimum commitment. And then with that, we assign a project manager, and we help you also get communities together. We have marketing emails that you can send within your organization. We help you work to identify a vocal executive sponsor. So it's really that whole programmatic approach to drive the outcomes that you want to see. So I could give you an example. So we worked with Capital One. It was one of our first customers, and I don't think at the time it was the guild, it was kind of our pilot, but they were really struggling to migrate. They had to move 900 applications, I think. I'm being rough about it. But over time, and after like 6 months, they hadn't done anything. So we went in there and trained the business and the technical roles within that organization. And then they had a structured approach to which applications they wanted to move, who needed to get trained, and they were able to achieve those goals within 9 months. So, I'm sorry. Sorry.
How long has your, sorry about that, how long has your GILD program been in effect?
About
As that-
I think about 2.5 years, we started pilots with customers. And so this year, I think we have about 60 or so guilds across the globe. Kind of all, it's interesting. I was saying today, for Fannie Mae, the financial sector has been really quick to adopt it for whatever reason, maybe transformative, traditional IT, heavily compliance.
Yeah, ours is not quite, and ours is not as broad at this point. We're kind of in that first step that you mentioned, even within a guild,
Yeah,
but it's not inclusive enough of business in other areas, I think.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
yes. Yep. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Guru Krishnamurthy. I'm the Senior Director for Business Strategy and Operations for the Platform on Cloud Engineering at Workday. So first of all, thank you for inviting for this session.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. So I have two questions. One, from an overall skills guild perspective, when we look at the content and the what the participants will get as a value, how much of it is platform agnostic, generic cloud skills versus AWS specific, technical skills? That's number one. Number two, what are the efforts that are happening with academia to make sure that we have some kind of foundational skills built, much before kids hit either kind of an intern roles or whatever the kind of roles in a startup, early career roles that they start, right?
Yep.
So I guess organically growing skills is a big challenge that we are all kind of catching up at this
Yeah.
point in time. But so is AWS Skills Guild program looking at any partnership with academia on that one?
So the Skills Guild is very focused generally on our enterprise customers in building that enablement. As it relates to early talent pipeline, we have a bunch of different programs. Our academy, which we put content into universities. We've got a Restart program, which is about reskilling workforces and making early career talent available. But maybe Shobha could talk a little bit about what your experience has been.
Yeah, I think we found one thing. You mentioned about if you learn one, is it relevant to if you go to another cloud platform? I think if you look at the engineering point of view, it does help. It doesn't make it absolutely like you can work one day in cloud one and second day you switch. It's not. But from a concept point of view, especially when you talk about database, talk about storage, talk about networking, some of the concepts would help. To be honest, I've done certification in all three, and I found some of the other platforms could be a little more noisy. Then if I have to do task A, I need to do 10 other things to get it done, whereas in AWS, it's just more narrowed, focused. And it also helped us to promote cloud in general. So whether I think to retain quality people, this was vital. We had a lot of smart, energetic people, and they got saying, okay, what do I do now? And I'm a little older in terms of the number of folks we hire. So when we talk to the younger folks, they feel, so what else do I do? This training definitely helped us to keep those talent around. And quality talent is tough to get. So keeping the training program, and if you get trained in AWS, even from a career point of view, that's not a bad thing to have. It's actually very profitable. So yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Hi there. I've got a question. My name is Dan Sweeney. I work for a national grocery distribution company called UNFI, United Natural Foods. And one of the biggest challenges that we have right now, as we start to move toward AWS and moving from that on-prem environment to the cloud, is really trying to get those legacy teams, those on-prem teams, to really understand what the benefit is of going to the cloud. I think there's a lot of hesitation from probably the fact that they just don't have a whole real good understanding of what the cloud has to offer.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably, some folks that are scared because, roles are going to change, skill sets change. And so are there 3-4 things that you can kind of point to kind of focus on to try and enable those teams to better adopt into the cloud?
I mean, I can give my perspective. Don, why don't you talk, and then I'll circle back.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's a challenge we all have, unless we were born in the cloud, and the very few are fortunate enough to have that. I think that's where you need to work very closely with your partners in HR and make sure that there's a plan in terms of development and resource planning, and really trying to make sure that folks can see a future for them in the cloud, and painting what that future is.
Shobu, did you have the same challenge? Or?
Yeah, I think we still have that. We still have that. There are folks who are not going to want to embrace that, just fine. But if you feel that you have an option of getting a contractor to come over and do certain things really fast, really quick, and you can afford it, that's possibly good short term. But long term, you're going to need your folks who have been building the application for the last several years. They know why it is, why it's broken, why it's like that. And it's always there's a reason behind any madness. So keeping those folks around and figuring out to give them a new roadmap as a career map, and working closely with HR. We work very closely with our HR. So during appraisal time, they know that, hey, if this person is currently managing a NetApp device, and if you're coming from on-prem and coming to cloud, what's this individual going to do? Figure out what is their likings are. Because they possibly didn't learn NetApp in college. That is not what they learned. They learned NetApp after they joined. They went for some training. What is that thing they learned, and what is that they enjoy doing? If they enjoy doing just sitting on the console and scripting, go for DevOps. That's a great area. We got mainframes. We got teams managing mainframe. Some of them didn't want to stick around. That's fine. But people who did, now they are our DevOps. They are the people who are running the machine learning. They are the people who are going in and doing scripting, because that comes natural for them. So there are some who are not going to work. That's fine. But for the majority, there is always a workaround. There is a way out there.
I think from my perspective, and just from working with a bunch of different companies, I think Kmart Australia is just such an interesting case study for us, because they had a very senior workforce. Some people have been with that organization for 40 years. And I worked with the CIO, or the team did, and I've met with him several times, but they had to move to the cloud, and they had the same problem. Everybody was traditional IT. People were worried they were going to lose their jobs. And I think they were, part of the guild, and they did put that senior leadership, and he was the vocal sponsor for that. And he's like, we're going to bring everybody along. We're going to get everybody certified. And they did. Even his assistant got us certified. It was crazy. And I think for him, it was more about bringing people along and telling them that there isn't going to be risk in their job, and that we're going to provide the tools and the training and make it comfortable. I think the communities help that aspect of it as well. The communities are part of, you have cloud champions, and they're excited, and that you're, I don't know, you sponsor pizza or whatever it might be, right? And then people start coming to these events, and they want to learn more. And I think the most critical thing is we say this at Amazon all the time. Failing isn't fatal; it's imperative, right? You have to fail. And so I think creating this culture where people are allowed to experiment and fail, you will have the best innovation that you have. And so I think it's for sure a cultural transformation. But I don't think organizations have the luxury of not doing that right now. They just don't. I can't, as much as we'll train 5 million people this year. And that is a fact. My organization will train 5 million people, and we're scratching the surface. We just can't train people fast enough. And so I think working with organizations like yours to try and figure out what's the secret sauce, and that's actually the beauty of this Skills Guild framework, is we give you all the tools, right? It's like whether it's marketing or messaging for your executive about how we're going to engage with you, or how to set up communities, or how ideas on how you acknowledge people that have achieved their certifications. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, and it's true for me too, you want to work for a company that's going to invest in you and you're going to be happy and you're working in a kind of an environment that's a community based, especially now during the pandemic. I mean, I think it's even more critical.
True.
Any other questions? Yeah. Alex? Alex is right behind you.
Hi, I'm Ed Crabtree from Subaru, IT manager for infrastructure, and we have other teams here from developers, but also infrastructure. So definitely the same challenges that everyone else is facing. We've recently spawned off a cloud, really a cloud ops team internally. We're not dedicated. So, for our jobs, we have several infrastructures. We're also multi-cloud. We're now about to start building a tenancy within AWS, but there's a lot of challenges kind of going back and forth of what do we need. Part of that is coupled with, I guess, what everyone else here is challenged with is staffing. Most of our experience is legacy, I guess you can call it, or on-prem. But it also sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I guess the pitch to the business and to HR is that if we are doing and we're trying to adopt a cloud first model, is that it also sounds like you would need to get headcount as a result of that. And has that been the case for each of you? Is that, because we still have our day jobs and still got to manage your day-to-day thing that's happening, but at the same time, you can only put so many hours into the training and become, even, I guess, intermediate within the AWS and building out that infrastructure. So staffing, I guess staffing an issue if you have small teams, and I guess maybe that's part of it.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
So we have that with multiple business units. The older the organization, the bigger the challenge, because they have to build stuff that they're not going to delete. If they have a GitHub repo and they have forked the code 10 years back, you can't tell them, drop everything, rewrite everything new. Doesn't work, both from a business point of view as well as from an individual or the team. What we have started to say is, all right, we get you got 10 different things you have to do yesterday. We get it. Do one right. Pick any one of the topics, pick it up, talk to your SA, indulge with programs like EBA or AML, any of the modernization labs or any of the workshops you can engage. Show them one of the problems, what is possible. And I can guarantee you, if they figure out one problem, how to solve it, they will do a rinse and a repeat on their own. It may not happen with every team. It hasn't happened with us. Some of the business units, they migrated to cloud, lift and shift, failed. The reason is it was expensive. It worked. It was not the right way. But people had to get over that first failure, give them the bandwidth saying, you're going to pay double. Finance team needs to know you got to pay double on-prem and AWS, especially if you have on-prem licensing. It's not going to go away just because you went to cloud. That's still a dead cost on us. So everyone, that's why the training becomes important. Financials, security, compliance, they all need to know it's a little bit of uncertainty, but there is hope. Start small, do something instead of saying, let me make the entire work, work breakdown on Jira, and then I will do the first piece of work. That's not going to fly. That's going to be a lot of waste of time.
So in that initial thing, I think part of what we're faced with is that the initial infrastructure architecture that's at least required.
Right.
We don't, because I guess it could be application dependent based on those requirements. And I guess this is probably goes on and on, but like getting started with that, I guess we're just trying to figure out what do we need fundamentally, and then where do you go from there? And that may not be able to be answered, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I would just add that it's a journey, and I think as fast or how fast or how slow you want to go on that journey is really about what resources that you can apply, and so I think that's just a lever that that you'll have to take into account in your planning.
Yeah, I think I'm an engineer by birth, so I'm going to tell you nothing ever is going to work the first time you try. If it works, good for you. It didn't work for us. So try a little bit, and I think if you fail, do create guardrails so when you accidentally break something, it doesn't affect anything else. That's one thing. And then there are a lot of platforms you can leverage now. They have, like the landing zone and security hub. Get those so that if people are concerned about, because there's always somebody who thinks something is going to break, something is going to get affected. Figure out what that pain point is and address that. And then start somewhere. Even if it is in a single account, that's fine. We started the same way. We built landing zone on our own before landing zone became a reality. So we learned the hard way, but then that knowledge helped us to understand what next to do. We're going to start somewhere. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I think, do we have any more? I wanted to thank you both for sitting here and answering the questions. And I really want to thank everybody for coming. And, we have the Skills Guild team in the room here to talk to you if you have any questions. But really it was an honor to be able to have you for lunch. And thanks for coming. Thank you, guys.
Likewise, thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.